right. The game that we thought when we looked at the schedule at the beginning of the season, we thought that probably wouldn't matter to anybody anywhere in the world suddenly has huge playoff implications, and that's the Jags at the Titans. What do you think?
This is an interesting game. We saw these teams play just a couple weeks ago, and the Jags were able to come out on top. And I'm kind of biased, even though I kind of hate the Jags, right? Because I'm a Colts fan, and they've tormented us throughout the years with just inconvenient loss after inconvenient loss out of nowhere. But it just feels like at this moment, the Jags are just better. And it's already been said that Joshua Dobbs will be starting for the Titans. And he looked pretty good in his first start. He had only been there for 8 days. He looked decent. But the Titans, even with Derrick Henry in the lineup, they just haven't looked like the Titans we're used to. And obviously they have even more injuries. Like last year they had, 91 different people on the roster. This year it's 84. They're the most injured team in the league again. And that's something that I wanted to talk about. Because while I think the Jags are going to win this game, I think it should be talked about why Vrabel is having so many injuries to his team. And while we both think that Vrabel's a really good coach and gets a lot out of his players, I think the injuries on the team, and it's football, it's going to happen. But when it becomes a pattern, I think you got to look at what they're doing, internally, and why that kind of thing is happening. So I was kind of wondering, you've been a coach before. I was wondering if you think I'm just trying to find a reason, or do you think there's something to that?
That's a really, really, really good question that I don't know that I have an answer for. You can't lean too heavily on players. All right, let's talk about running backs, right? You have to limit your running backs' carries. They have a limited number of carries in them, and you can't just overload and overload and overload and overload, or the back breaks down and he only has a couple years in the league. I mean, you have to respect the limitations. But by the same token, these are professionals. I know. I mean, I really don't know how to answer this question. I know that fatigue causes injuries. I would hate to think at the professional level we have a lot of people that know what they're doing. You would think their strength and conditioning at every facility is top notch. So fatigue really shouldn't come into play. I really don't know, but that's a really, really good question I've never thought about before. Now you have piqued my curiosity for sure. I mean, it could just be shitty luck. The 49ers have had some terrible luck with that too. I don't know. It's a good question. It's a really good question.
And sometimes I think because maybe I'm biased because I like Vrabel as a coach, but so that it's not necessarily on him, but the fact that it's their style of play. They run the football 30 times a game, 35 times a game, and they play really physical defense. They have a lot of guys on that defense, especially in the front seven, that play very physical. But they've also drafted corners that came into the NFL with injury issues. They've continued to be injured. So I think that's part of it too, is drafting guys that just generally tend to be injured. So those are my thoughts on it. Again, could be biased because it could be a Vrabel thing. Maybe they practice hard so that they can play hard. A lot of guys, especially a guy like Vrabel, I'm sure is you want to practice the way you want to play to prepare right. But I just think it's just when it's a pattern, it gets weird. I know a couple of years ago, the 49ers had a ridiculous amount of injuries, and that it was kind of fluky because it hasn't been like that for them since.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to pick your brain on that one.
Yeah. So, the smash, one thing I will say, the league in general, I don't like the 17 games. I don't, you're trying to, I mean, I do as a fan, I love it. But as looking at from a realistic standpoint, man, you can only get so much productivity out of a human being. And when these guys are 300 pounds and they're running 4.40s and they're like car wrecks, and people are going to get hurt. And then now your quality of play is going down because whether you win a championship or not completely depends on whether you get lucky running through the gauntlet and you have less injuries than the other teams, which is what's happening with the Titans here, and has happened with the 49ers. but they're not going to take games away. That's going to fall on deaf ears. It's a moot point. We're at 17. We'll be at 18 before this is over. We'll probably have 2 preseason games in 18 seasons, and that'll probably happen way sooner than later. And injuries are always going to be a huge part of that, unfortunately. And so that changes the game too, right? So if you have Vrabel's a hard-nosed old school guy. If you're playing Bill Parcells type football, which is Vrabel comes from the Parcells tree, and it's all smash mouth all the time, guys are going to get hurt. That's just the way it is because of the longevity, and so. But that's a really good question. Really
I'd be interested to see if with the injury rate seemingly going up for most teams every year, and them adding games, it'll be interesting to see if they add. Like they already added, you can have more people on your practice squad, so your total roster is more. I'll be interested to see if they add any spots to the active roster as all these guys continue to get hurt.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I would say they're going to have to
at some point. Yeah, you got to.
We know again. We know they're going to 18 games, and they'll run the data, and that's probably exactly what will happen. Anyway, when it comes to this game, it's an interconference game. The Titans are a good team. They're just banged up. The Jags are trying to find their identity. They may have found it. I personally, the only Tennessee, in my opinion, the 2 things they have going for them are Derrick Henry and the fact that it's in Tennessee. But on the other side of that, I think the Jags, I think they're confident. I think they found their stride. I think they know they've got a winning combination and their quarterback and their coach, and I think they can see the future. And I think the first major step in their future is making the playoffs. And I think the Jags are coming to win this game, is what I think.
Yeah, there's going to be the Jags proving a point and trying to let the Titans know, like, you might have won it last year, but move over. We're coming, because Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson, the team that they've built, like, and the fact that they're probably getting Calvin Ridley next year, this is going to be a deadly team in the future if they continue to build it correctly.
Yeah, and look, you got Peterson, who's proven he can win a Super Bowl, right? You got Trevor Lawrence, has proven he can play. You've proven that these two are working really well together. You're going to make a jump to the playoffs in a season everybody wrote you off before it even started, right? You're playing year-round in a warm, sunny place where everybody wants to live. What do you think is going to happen? Free agents are going to start flocking to Jacksonville. They have put it together. This may be a dynasty running the top of the AFC South for the next 5 years or so.
Legitimately, if they can build that defense up just a little bit, like, and be more stout on the defensive side, they're going to be a problem for years to come.
Agreed.
And I would love to know what you think about this game, what you think is going to happen, who you think is going to win. You let me know down in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you for the next video.